Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with Pro Wrestling Logic YouTube channel, and we are going to go into the SmackDown review for this particular evening, the 19th of June, and 2020. Like, subscribe, comment below if you're interested in that. We also will have the Impact review up. I've already completed the AEW Dark review that I'm behind on by a few days, and also some coverage of the challenges and the news of the day. In any event, SmackDown wasn't bad. It's better than normal this week. Um, they start with a recap video of AJ Styles winning the championship, defeating Daniel Bryan last week. Probably the best match on a WWE free television program, a la non-takeover or pay-per-view event. At least in 6 months, I'd even venture to say a year. Um, Anyway, so Renee Young's out after they do a recap video, which everyone knows I'm not a fan of, but I understand it. Renee Young's out. She's in the ring. She has the SmackDown roster surrounding the ring. I don't quite understand why. The So she basically says that AJ and Bryan had an instant classic last week, and AJ wins. He brags about his accomplishments, calls himself the face that runs the place, all the typical stuff. Uh, he tells everyone around ringside this is the closest they'll get to the championship. Styles asks Young to begin the presentation. Um, Daniel Bryan, he says, is the only person that is qualified enough to present him with the championship. Styles demands that Bryan puts the title around his waist. Styles says he's trusting Bryan to do the right thing and show respect. Bryan does put the title around Styles' waist, congratulates him, but wanted to say, he just basically says it normal volume. AJ wants it louder. Bryan grabs the mic and openly does put him over. He says he has the chance to be the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time. Styles has to defend the belt week by week against Shorty G, Grand Metalik, and Big E, and other people. Styles says only the select few will get title shots. Styles noted that Bryan's not getting another one, and he can get back in line. Bryan's okay with this, but thinks that Drew Gulak would make a good challenger. Bryan points out that Gulak, in fact, had defeated Styles a few weeks ago. Styles refused and says he's only going to defend it against the number one contender. Enter Matt Riddle. Riddle, who has not been on SmackDown, somehow is interjected into the Intercontinental title program, which I do not like, and I will explain why here in a second. Anyway, Riddle introduces himself. Styles says he knows who he is. All Styles sees is another guy begging for a handout. Riddle says he will be the bro that runs the show. And then Styles attacks him before Riddle knocks him to the floor. Now, segment is fine, although if we are to believe that titles mean something, and we are to believe that debuts on a new show mean something in terms of a guy starting over versus being a pushed talent. In other words, we've never seen Matt Riddle before. There's a very good chance that at least a third, if not more, of the audience on SmackDown does not know or care who Matt Riddle is. Maybe it's less than a third, maybe it's more, but I'm picking a third just because it's a number that makes some semblance of sense. So why would he automatically get in the ring with the Intercontinental Champion? Now, if you want to do 3 or 4 wins and Riddle wins against random guys for at least a few weeks and then do this segment with AJ, great. But there's no reason that the second most important guy on the SmackDown brand should be in the ring with Matt Riddle right from the beginning. It's kind of like, it's the girl that sleeps with you on the first date, or the guy that sleeps with you on the first date. What reason is there for a second date? What reason is there to pursue something further when you've already given everything there is to you know to see and do? And so anyway, we go into an impromptu non-title match. Roster stays out, treats this like a lumberjack match. I don't understand why nobody explains that either. Riddle nails a German suplex, gains an advantage early. Hits a series of gut wrenches too. And kicks another, strikes for near fall. Styles fights back from underneath, hits a drop kick. Riddle comes back with kicks in the corner, but Styles comes back with a clothesline. Basically, Styles is backpedaling the entire match. At one point, Corbin and Riddle collide with each other on the outside, which hopefully does not mean that these two are headed for matches, because that would be an egregious waste of Matt Riddle as a person and as a talent. Styles is in control post-commercial break and gets a suplex for a near fall. Riddle fights back from underneath. Styles catches Riddle and nails him with a dragon screw leg whip. Riddle misses a kick and chop block on the knee of Riddle. Riddle hits a fisherman suplex. Riddle with a forearm in the corner and yet another suplex. He hits a senton for a near fall. So Riddle really is taking the majority of this match. He locks on the bro mission. Styles floats over into the calf crusher. Riddle makes it to the ropes in front of Bryan. All the babyfaces are supporting Riddle at this point. Styles attempts a phenomenal forearm. Riddle caught him with a high bro Derek for the win. The announcers put this over as one of the biggest wins in SmackDown history and a SmackDown historic moment, which it is, but I don't know that bringing him up a la Santino Marella with Umaga years ago is the way you bring Matt Riddle up. You jumpstart him, but then where do you go with him? It doesn't make sense to me. Babyfaces celebrate post-match. So then Jeff Hardy's in the back. He's getting ready for an interview. Hardy's interview when we come back from commercial is Hardy's doing better, but he's had struggles recently. Renee says this has been tough to watch. You're telling me. Young pointed out that Hardy has a chance at redemption at Backlash, but fails. Hardy admits he is the following: an adrenaline junkie, an alcoholic, and that Sheamus is just another roadblock. And basically, Hardy is begging for another chance at redemption, questioning himself, having an internal struggle. As someone who is a recovering addict, I understand the emotion they're trying to convey. I don't think it should be part of a wrestling television program. I don't find it to be appropriate because it's different than a television program. In a television program, ladies and gentlemen are just playing characters. But on the road, and you have temptations, and you struggle with addiction, to talk about it, to be confronted with it as a storyline, could be a major trigger from a mental health perspective for anyone. And I'm not singling out Jeff Hardy, but anyone with an addiction. If you talk about it all the time, you screw up long enough, sooner or later, you're going to, not care, be down on yourself after the show at the bar, and you're going to slip. It happens, and it could take 6 months, it could take a year, it could take 2 years. But I don't think these angles are appropriate because they encourage the possibility of a slip. Anyway, Kayla Braxton approaches Shorty G, talks about a match with Mojo Rawley being taller and bigger and all this stuff. And Shorty G says he really doesn't care. He says he's fought big guys before, and that Mojo Rawley's nothing worth worrying about. Rawley appears behind Shorty G, and gloms him from behind. Anyway, Shorty G and Mojo Rawley's up next. Not a fan of this. Fan of Shorty G, talented guy. Mojo Rawley, another guy that they tried. It failed. It hasn't gotten over. He's had multiple years between NXT and various other incarnations on the roster. Let him go and make room for somebody who hasn't had an opportunity. Rawley charges. Gets control early. Northern Light suplex for a near fall by Shorty. And then Rawley slows the pace of the match down a good bit. Shorty fights back, and Rawley turns it back his way with a splash in the corner. Rawley then is the victim of a German suplex, and Shorty G recovers and uses inside cradle for the win. Very little time for this, no real purpose for this. And then we move on to Miz TV with guest Mandy Rose. I like the Miz TV segment. I don't know that I like this segment, and the fact that Sonya and Mandy are still going at it all these months later with no end in sight is just, it's cringeworthy. I don't get it. I don't understand it. It's not enjoyable. Anyway, so Miz notes that there's an elephant in the room. Morrison says, is it Otis? Said they could have been co-universal champions, but the rules changed at the last second. Easy for me to say. Miz and Morrison also had to worry about Otis. And Miz and Morrison asks Rose about her former friend Sonya. They mock her. She gets up to leave. They apologize, say they're only joking. So basically, they're portraying bullies on television, and there's no revenge against the bullies. Sonya comes out. She's wearing a black suit. She mocks she mocks Mandy and her accomplishments. Says the biggest thing she's ever done is hang out with Otis by the pool. DeVille isn't mad anymore. She wants to know why she can't get the same treatment as Mandy. And then she promises to rip Rose apart and make her look hideous on the outside, as she does on the inside. Didn't they already do this? They brawl briefly. It doesn't really amount to anything of long-term consequence. Ugly segment. Boring segment. Anyway, speaking of talent that we underpush and forget about and then bring back, the New Day and the Lucha House Party have a non-title match, which was perfectly fine, although Lucha House Party hasn't been around in a few weeks that I can recall. So when they come back, why are they in a non-title match right away? Again, logic holes, non-episodic booking, and it is what it is. Anyhow, Bayley and Sasha are out here for the men's tag team non-title match for reasons that I guess become a little clearer later, but still, why should they care what is going on the men's side of things? They've got enough trouble with their tag team championships and Bayley having the SmackDown Women's Championship. Why should they care? Anyway, they join on commentary. They're good. They're always enjoyable, but it just doesn't make sense. It did take away from the match from time to time. Lindsay Dorado and Kofi go back and forth. Dorado avoids Kofi when it matters. There's a drop kick. Metalik hits a splash on Kingston and off Dorado's shoulders. Big E makes a tag and hits a belly-to-belly suplex. Lucha House Party hits dives to the floor. Nakamura and Cesaro are watching the match in the back. Presumably, they're going to be the next challengers for the Tag Team Championships, which is a good thing. I think those matches could be fun, but at this point, 5 or 6 years later, Are we getting to the end of New Day? Is it possible? I don't know, but I'm starting to wonder what else they can do with the New Day without it looking really one-sided. Anyway, we go to the break. We come back. Dorado fights out. He's going for a near fall. Dorado recovers from the springboard, recovers and hits a springboard stunner. Kingston and Metalik are tagged back in. Kingston goes nuts. Metalik attempts a crossbody, but Kingston hits a drop kick for his trouble. Lucha House Party takes over. They rock Kingston with a double super kick. Biggie pins Metalik. Or not before pushing him off the top. The Midnight Hour is hit for the win. Nakamura and Cesaro are in. They jump the New Day after the match. Heels are made to look strong here, which is good. The match itself is fine, but again, it's inconsequential. Week to week, why should we have expected this type of match between Lucha House Party and New Day? They haven't built it up in a way that would make a non-fan or a casual fan stay for it. So, anyway, we go to the back, and there's a bunch of ladies, including but not limited to Dana Brooke, Tamina, Alexa Bliss, Naomi, Lacey Evans. All of them want a shot at Bayley's title. Bliss noted that Nikki Cross is missing. Kayla interviews Sheamus in the back. Sheamus acts somewhat remorseful for his actions pertaining to Jeff Hardy. Sheamus laughs and says that he's a bully. Sheamus says he wishes he'd done more damage to Hardy and smashed his voice box. That was a good line. He's going to toast Hardy next week. Don't know what that means. Maybe it's break a bottle over his head. Bayley and Banks are still on commentary. And then Nikki Cross attacks Sasha and Bayley. Alexa runs down to help out Cross. Bayley accepts the challenge, and Banks agrees to a one-on-one match here. So Sasha Banks with Bayley versus Nikki Cross with Alexa Bliss. Decent enough match. Banks with an early advantage. Cross comes back with some hard stuff, including a crossbody off the apron. Beautifully done. Counter of a bulldog into a backstabber for a near fall by Banks. Banks slows things down. Back to the chin locks. I guess that's the only way we know how to slow things down, eh? The attempt at the Banks statement is blocked. Cross breaks free with a submission. Finish comes when Cross tries a sunset flip, but Banks rolls through and hits a Meteora. Cross and Banks do have a good match here. Sasha and Bayley and Charlotte and Becky Lynch when she's not pregnant are probably of the top 10 for the top 10 talent in WWE period, and it's amazing to see that women have that distinction. I'm glad to see it. It makes me happy to see it and all that good stuff. Titus O'Neil up for a humanitarian award. We go to commercial, come back to the Firefly Funhouse. This is kind of anticlimactic. They had promoted this with commercials. Anyway, Bray welcomes everyone back to the Funhouse. He joined a Burke Club, learned a new TikTok dance, and resurrected the dead and learned how to knit while he was gone. Wow, he's been busy. So he can resurrect the dead. Does that mean he's a deity now? Ramblin' Rabbit shows up and noted that Wyatt's been upset about losing to Braun. Wyatt admitted that he did lose to Strowman. Strowman makes his way out. His music hits and noted that he had an opportunity, but the game between them is over. Wyatt says the chapter's over, but he wasn't lying about resurrecting the dead. Not sure what that means. Kind of cryptic. Wyatt turns to the Wyatt family version of Bray and tells Strowman he knows where to find him. All Strowman has to do is follow the buzzards. He holds up a lantern and tells Strowman to run and blew out the light. Not the way I'd close a show. I'd close with wrestling versus this hokey storyline, so I'd flip-flop those last two segments. Next week, AJ Styles and Drew Gulak, and Sheamus presents a toast to Jeff Hardy. Hardly worth going out of your way to tune in for if you aren't a regular viewer. Overall, the Matt Riddle stuff, good to see. The women's match, good to see. Everything else, you can pretty well skip. SmackDown certainly not a can't-miss program, but better than most weeks this week. And we will be back with more. We will be back with a news update on the issues that have been had by the ladies this past few days, and an Impact review and so much more. We are going to start a primetime wrestling series because they have my whole my maiden year, 89. The whole year is up except for the Christmas episode, so I'm going to start doing that too. Anyway, until next time, keep your feet on the ground, your mind in the moment.